right, so today I'm going to show you how I cut out objects using the pen tool. That is the dreaded and feared pen tool. All right, so before I get started, let's jump into this. Check out my website at photillustrator.com. Follow me on Facebook at Photillustrator. You can follow me on Instagram, which is my preferred method of following, at Photillustrator. And like always, I want to feature one photographer before we get started in this. And this is a photographer who I get questions all the time. But one of the most common questions I get is, where do I start learning how to do composite photography? So I wanted to share the photographer that I guess came across his video when I started doing composite photography, and I found it really, really helpful. And that is, the photographer is Matt Hernandez Photography. He does some really cool stuff, does great, like high school senior sports type things, pro athletes, all these type of things. Does a really, really fantastic job with it. And the video that really kind of got me started, gave me some direction, I guess, with this, is his composite of George Wilson. I think he does like a 3-part series, something like that. Yeah, part 2 and 3 you can see over there on the side. But this really takes you from doing the photography all the way through to a finished product and his process of doing that. It's a rather simple composite, comprising of only 2 or 3, 4 different images, but it's really good. It gives you a really good idea of, some of the things that you'll be doing as you go through the compositing process. So anyway, check out Matt Hernandez Photography over at his website, matthernandezphotography.com, and Google or YouTube Matt Hernandez and find out or find some of his videos, especially the George Wilson composite videos. So anyway, there's that. Let's get into our tutorial, which is how to mask out objects or how to cut out objects using the pen tool in Photoshop. And today I'm going to go over real quick how I cut out the scooter here that you see, which is going to be in an upcoming portrait or composite that I'm doing. And then also going to show you how I do, let's erase this. All right, so we're going to show you how I do a person as well. Not really a person, but these fine areas here that can cause a lot of headaches on cutting out. And a lot of times I see people, photographers, especially photographers that are new into compositing and really trying to figure out their way and how to do things. This is really where I see a lot of composites falling short, is in the masking out of the objects within them. So this is going to be really good for you to see this. So we can do this one of 2 ways. You can select your pen tool, you can make your selection, and then you can make, and we'll do that real quick. All right, so got a lot to cover here, a lot that I want to cover. All right, so you're going to use 2 keys basically on your keyboard when you're doing any kind of compositing, and that is, one is your Alt key and then your Command key, or your Option key and your Command key. I don't know what it is on a PC. I'm a Mac guy. That's all I ever use. That's all I ever want to use. If you're a PC guy, then you probably know those shortcut keys a lot better than I do. So here are the 2. Come down here. I'm going to show you here in just a second. All right, so we come up here. And so what I'm doing is you click, you hold down, and you draw this out. And this is significant when it comes to making the curves that you're going to be making anytime you have a curved area. And then once you get that, let's say we get up to the edge here. And now I'm not going to just drag it out like this, because what will happen then is when I go down here, I can't make that nice straight corner there. So what you're going to do is, when you come up here and you draw this out to get that curve, you're going to push down your Alt or Option key, and you can put this anywhere you want. So you want to take that to the next line that you're going to be creating, and then that gives you that nice straight line that you want. Okay, so that's how you do that. Come over here. So then we close that off, and imagine if we'd gone around the whole person here, and then you right click and you make your selection. Now with feathering, this is really, really important when it comes to masking out an object. is what you set your feathering at, because at a 0 feathering, you're going to get a masking that doesn't look real enough. All right, because nothing in life is seen with that sharp edge. Everything has a fuzziness to it. You can see on this image, even in the photo, that is a fuzzy edge. This is a fuzzy edge. This isn't hardcore straight edge like somebody just cut it out with a razor. That would look unrealistic. So generally what I use for feathering is either 0.5 or 1. And I have to say lately I've been using a lot of 0.5. 1 seemed to get a little bit too fuzzy, especially with the way that I do things. And then 0.5 seems to work really good for me. All right, so here we'll take that, and then you just push your layer mask, and then Command I to reverse it, and you can see your nice cutout there. Now, here's another way that we can do this. And we're going to take this down, trash it, and then we can come in here and we're going to cut out this area right here. But first we're going to put a layer mask on it. And so we come in here, pull that curve there, which is the nice thing about the pen tool, is you can pull really nice curves. And you can see how fast this goes. Once you work on this and you master the technique, which, listen, this takes time. It takes a lot of time and hard work and experience, all right? So you saw that that line was probably too much, so I cut it in half to pull a better curve out of it. Okay, so there we go. Right click, make your selection, 0.5, and boom. And so now I have a selection with my layer mask. Select your brush tool, and then go in here and just brush it out. Okay. Same thing if you want to go in here and do this. Now there are some pros and cons to the brush tool that I want to go over real quick for you. Make a selection, 0.5, and then you can do that. So that takes a little bit longer. There's other ways you can add in selections so you don't have to do this one piece by piece. You can do a lot of different selections and then brush them out all together at one time. So some of the pros and cons. One of the likes, some of the likes, why I like the pen tool. And I have to say, I don't use the pen tool most of the time. I'm a really lazy dude, and I like using what I've become very comfortable at and very quick at and very efficient at, which is the brush tool. So where the pen tool is really good for curves, you know, I can use a brush tool here for these straight lines like this, and then just bring it down. And I can even do that with curves and whatnot. So I can use a brush tool really quick and easy. And the other thing is I also kind of go through spurts. Sometimes I use the pen tool a lot. Sometimes I use a brush tool a lot. So I'm never consistent. I don't consistently do one thing all the time. I kind of shift it up and change it up, probably mostly for my own ADD and trying to make this more fun for me. Also, you can get a realistic masking. So with a brush tool, what tends to happen is you'll change that feathering as you go through the entire masking process. With the pen tool, you're going to mask out the entire thing. And then, you know, when you make your selection, you're going to select it at a feathering of 0.5 or 1, whichever one works best for what you're trying to do. And then that is consistent throughout the entire object that you're masking out, which is really cool, and that makes it a bit more realistic as well. The only time that becomes an issue is if you've used a shallow depth of field and things are getting more blurry at the back or towards the front, and that masking of 0.5 or 1 might not be enough, in which case you'll go through with the brush tool and feather that more and, you know, make it more realistic. Additionally, fine line areas. So when you come in here to, especially like this area here, this is a fine line area that with the brush tool becomes very difficult. With the pen tool, it's very easy to do. And a lot of times I'll find myself doing these big areas here with the brush tool and then come in here and use the pen tool for the fine line areas. Also, you get nice even curves. The magic behind the pen tool is in the curves. All right, so you got nice big curves here, curves. You got this wheel that is nearly impossible when you're using a brush tool to cut out this wheel and not give it some kind of sharper edge, or some kind of like a flattening of the tire in areas. So with a pen tool, you can really make this thing round like you see it in actual real life. Some of the dislikes that about the pen tool for me are that it's more difficult to use on the Wacom tablet. So a lot of times I'll use my mouse when I'm masking out things with the pen tool. Also, it's difficult to see. So when we come in here and we're using the pen tool here, we come in here, a lot of times for me, it's difficult to see this line right here. And so, and especially when you get into areas that are like the same kind of tone as the line. So if you get into a grayer, darker area, it can be very difficult sometimes to see that line. And maybe I can show you here. Well, even there, you can see it's hard to see that line on this edge right here. So you put that line into the dark area there, and it becomes very difficult to see. That's one thing that I have an issue with sometimes. And that's even with these big fancy glasses that I use so I can see the computer screen. And then lastly, when you're masking out this entire structure, this entire object, I tend to tense up. Okay, so one thing here real quick is that you can see that this dot here is off. It's a little bit out too far. So what you do is you push your command key and you can move this thing anywhere you want. So then you can be more accurate with that selection. And so anyway, when you're masking out the entire object, it gets tiring. It gets get tensed up. I tend to get wrist pain, carpal tunnel going on, and that's not an enjoyable experience for me. The cool thing though is you can kind of leave it for a while and then come back to it, which I've been known to do too. So come down here and we get into this wheel. You just pull a long line here, and I always bring this piece back real close. Pull line there. It's like pool. And when you're playing pool, the easiest shots are the close ones. The hardest shots are the long ones. So you bring this out and you leave this here, and then you can see what's doing to this area here. All right, it makes it, you can't get that straight line. All right, so what you do, you bring that out, you press Alt, bring it right back in, and then you don't have any issues with that. So you just go through that process there, and we'll close off this here. And then we will make a selection, 0.5, and then we are going to do that, put a layer mask on it, Command I to reverse it. So there we have that. All right, so we have that. Next thing, let's look at if we want to mask out different areas, but all at the same time. And I'm going to put a layer mask on there already. We're going to come in here. I'm going to do this real quick. I don't want to worry about too much about accuracy. However, I do want that. Okay, so we're going to come up here. We're going to make that selection 0.5, and then we're going to come over here with the pen tool. We're going to make another selection. That is a fine selection. We're going to make another selection here. So here's the key. Instead of new selection, you click Add to Selection, and now we've got 2. Now we can come in here, and we could do that with the entire wheel, and then we can come in here with our brush tool, and we can just simply brush all that out and mask it out. So that's really, really simple. That's a cool way to get all this stuff really quick and fast and do it all in one fell swoop. And then also in that area there, there's a lot of little areas. I do a lot of motorcycles, so for whatever reason, I do a lot of motorcycles, so that's important that you can go in there and mask that stuff out really quick. Now, if you want to save this selection, let's say that we want to save this selection. We're going to go up to Filter, or no, Select. We're going to save selection, and we're going to save it as Scooter 3. Okay, so now that selection is saved. All right, so we could go in here and we could get rid of all that. And now if we want to make that selection again, all we have to do is go up to Select, Load Selection, and we're going to choose our Scooter 3. And boom, there it is, right there again, and we just mask it out. Boom. How is that for awesome and fast and easy? So you don't ever have to worry about screwing things up. Just make sure you save your selection. Very, very cool and very, very simple. All right, so that's how I mask out objects using the pen tool. Now, a couple tips I want to make sure that you're aware of. One is feathering. It's super important that you get the right feathering for what you're trying to do to give it the most realistic look possible. Zero is never a good thing, in my opinion. Makes the edges way too crisp, way too sharp. When we look at things in real life, just isn't that way. 0.5 to 1 I have found works the best. 0.5 right now, in my opinion, is working the best. Also, when you're making multiple mask areas like we just did down here in the wheel, showed you how to do that, so it makes it a little bit more efficient, a little bit quicker for you to go through and mask out these areas rather than doing one each time and doing the brush tool, which I've done as well. And also saving the mask, so if you ever need to refer back to it, or if something ever happens, you can always refer back to it. You always have it there, and you don't have to go through the process of masking out the entire object again. So I think those are two very, very important things that you can use to make your process more efficient. It's all about becoming efficient, doing the best job you can as quickly as possible. Because when you turn your compositing hobby into a career, you need to do this somewhat quickly. I do a lot of portrait photography, doing these crazy composite type things, and I get a lot of people coming in. Right now I think I have 4 jobs going, so I have to be very quick at it and learn how to be very quick at it and do a really good job. So these are some of the techniques that I use to make that happen. I hope you got a lot out of this tutorial today. Go out, practice how to mask things out, whether you use the brush tool or the pen tool or any other way that you do it. Make sure that you master that way, and that's going to take a bit of time. It doesn't happen over a weekend or over a couple of composites. It takes a lot of time. I'm 1.5 years, I think, into this right now, and I'm still getting better. I'm still learning. All right, I was doing things at 1 pixel feathering. Now I'm doing things at 0.5 pixel feathering. So I'm always tweaking, always trying to find out the best way and the quickest way to do things. So anyway, go out, practice your masking, use the pen tool, check it out. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, email me or call me. Yes, I will take your call and I will help you over the phone. And if you have anything else, if you have any questions about this, just hit me up. I will help you. Until next time, be awesome, and I'll see you on the next Photillustrator tutorial.